What we've been waiting for is finally upon us. The best time of the season, the best sporting event in all of sports. It is here. It is time for us to make our predictions. And if you guys want to follow along with me, just go to ESPN. Everyone knows about the tournament challenge by now. Just log in. Boom. Here you go. Make 25 brackets. Could win. Could get a perfect bracket. Who knows? Anything could happen. It's March. But let's just get straight into it. Auburn versus Alabama State, St. Francis, Auburn. You don't got to really talk about these 116 matchups. I know that we've had two 16 seeds win, and yes, they've been in recent years, but it's not going to happen this season. If it does, sue me. Moving on. 8-9, always tough to pick. Louisville, Creighton. It's weird this season. I feel like there's a lot of these 8-9 matchups where it's one of these teams we haven't seen in a while versus one of the teams that's been here forever. It feels like, Creighton's always here. They've always gotten a good team full of shooters. This year's no different. They got Stephen Ashworth. Ryan Kalkbrenner's been here. He knows what March is about. He's made it deep into the season. He's played in April. These guys in Louisville, some of them have, some of them haven't. Terrence Edwards was on the James Madison team last year that made a run. Chucky Hepburn was with Wisconsin. They've made it to March. They got experience on this team, but I don't think it's enough experience compared to Creighton. I got to give it to Greg McDermott. Got Creighton beating them. Michigan, UC San Diego. I know I did talk about UC San Diego in my video, but Michigan is just a tough matchup for any mid-major because they got those Twin Towers down low. Danny Wolf looking very, very good this year. Golden, no different. I don't think UC San Diego is going to have the firepower to really keep up with them as much as I was rooting for them. And, as good as their stats look, they could, I'm not going against them. They could have a good run, but I gotta give it to Michigan. UC San Diego is favored on this. No, they're not favored. I'm sorry. I was about to say they're already favoring a 12. That is insane. Especially UC San Diego. No one really knows about them. But yeah, we gotta go Michigan. I know I'm going against what I said in my video, but it's all about those matchups at the end of the day. Oh, I can make a new one about those, about my favorite upsets picks, but you'll see them in this video. Moving on. Texas A&M versus Yale. Ugh. Yale is one of those teams that everyone's talking about is going to be potentially, an upset. They got Pulakaitis. They've been here before. They beat Auburn last year at this same seed line. They were 13 and they pulled off the upset. But Texas A&M, one of my favorite things about March Madness is these teams with these senior guards. That those are the teams that make it far. The guard play, the experience, that is worth so much. That especially having more than one ball handler and shot creator especially is the make or break factor for most of these teams during March, because sometimes you have those games where it's just one guy and no one else can hit a shot, and that's what ends up killing them. Last year, that was how it was with Oregon. Jermaine Cousinard had 40, but they still lost because Creighton was just Creighton, and they were able to just outscore. And Oregon couldn't have anyone else shoot at all. But, so for that factor, I got to go Texas A&M. I know, chalk, but I don't see it this year for Yale, to be honest. This Ivy League wasn't as hyped up as it should have been or as it was supposed to be. Moving on, Ole Miss versus San Diego State, UNC. Oof. Ole Miss, good team in the SEC. Being in the SEC and making some March Madness as a 6 seed has to say something about your program. You're doing something right. That is because it's a high seed line. For their 12 teams being in here, this is one of those better SEC teams. But in San Diego State, UNC, neither of these teams really do anything for me, because UNC has just been having such a rocky season, and then San Diego State, kind of the same, barely squeaking in. I feel like I gotta go Ole Miss here. It's tough, man. It's tough. The first 4 games, there's always going to be one first 4 team wins, so I would keep that in mind when making your bracket. I always like to pick at least one of these 11 seeds to win because it just always happens. I think it's happened in like the past 6 brackets or something like that. But for right now, I'm gonna go Ole Miss. I just like the fact that they also have a bunch of senior guard play with Sean Padula, Jalen Murray, Matthew Morrell, and then they have the surrounding guys around them: Malik Dia, Musa Sisse. They got Dre Davis. Has been looking very, very good. That's why I just don't see San Diego State really being able to hold up to them. I'm not even considering UNC. That quad one record is abysmal. Then we got Iowa State, Lipscomb. Lipscomb, yes, I know Ognasevic. He's good, but Iowa State, I know Keyshawn Gilbert's out, whatever. Lipsy is back in, and Curtis Jones is Curtis Jones, and he's been looking unstoppable this season. And yes, Iowa State is also kind of like they're on the decline headed into March, but this is when you buy on those low teams, you buy high, because this team was one of the top 10 teams throughout the season. And they're not going to lose to a mid-major, one. And two, people are going to doubt this team. And I feel like they gotta make it to the Sweet 16. You know, their path isn't that hard. They can beat Ole Miss for sure. But moving to Marquette, New Mexico, this is gonna be a fun matchup of 2 star players just shooting the lights out. Cam Jones, Donovan Dent, you know, and it's really just gonna boil down to who has the better supporting cast. And I think Richard Pitino's squad got it with Nelly Jr. Joseph, and just everyone surrounding Donovan Dent is just better than this Marquette team who's fizzled out they've just fizzled out nearing the end of the season. This losing streak, these last 3 have come in March. I gotta go New Mexico here. They didn't do it for me last season. I gotta pick them this season. Hopefully that's not another Clemson situation where Marquette ends up just going on a crazy run and Cam Jones is just unstoppable. You know, I gotta go New Mexico. I really like the makeup of this team. It's better than it was last season. And last season they were looking like they might make a run to the Elite Eight. And next, Michigan State Bryant. I gotta go Michigan State. Bryant isn't doing anything different for me. Yes, they do have good players. I know Earl Timberlake. He's always been on my radar. He's solid. Pinzon, you're solid. Are you as good as a Tom Izzo? Are you good enough to beat a Tom Izzo team? I don't really think so. You know, I know this team lacks like those big guys, that Tyson Walker, you know, AJ Hogarth, but they got Jaden Akins still. He's the leader of the team, surrounded by a bunch of new young guys. And that they're just talented, man. They're just talented, and they just have the depth and just the rotations that Izzo comes up with. They're not gonna lose into a 15 seed this season. I don't see it. Moving on, Florida, one of my favorite teams for sure. Don't see Norfolk State beating them. And then we got UConn, Oklahoma. UConn, you know, what happened to you guys? You really fell off. Oklahoma, I didn't see really being in a 9 seed, but they got them at a 9. Jeremiah Frears has been dominating this season, but UConn is still UConn, and I gotta give Danny Hurley at least 1 win. It's only going to be 1 win though, because I don't see them doing anything to Florida. Then moving on, we got Memphis, Colorado State. I hate this part of the bracket because these 2 games are gonna be so fun to watch, but it's gonna be so hard to pick. Memphis having PJ Haggerty, Colorado State having Nick Clifford. Ooh, Colorado State's especially on a run too, because they were dominant in the Mountain West. People forget, and I forget too. They're one of the hottest teams coming in. I might have to give it to them. Memphis, yes, they are different this year. They have PJ Haggerty, but I feel like they always kind of underperform when it comes to really getting into March. That's why I feel like I gotta low-key give it to one of these 12 seeds. I gotta give it Colorado State. I just feel like this team is too hot really not to pick. And yeah, I just gotta take them. Then we got Maryland, Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, you know, they made it here last year. They were able to beat 5 seed. I forget who they beat, but Tyon Grant Foster really has just been on the decline this season, not what he was last season. Maryland has the highest scoring starting 5, led behind the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. and potentially who I believe probably low-key could be the Big Ten Player of the Year, but he, he's going to be in the NBA next season. Derek Queen's a beast. Top 10 pick for sure. Those guys dominate in March most of the time, and surrounded by the seniority that he does, Jacoby Gillespie, and then also having Julian Reese in the front court to help him out if things start to get rough. It's gonna help. I feel like this GCU team just isn't as good as they were last year. They've been on a good run in the West Coast Conference, or in the WAC, but losing to ASU, losing to Georgia, they losing to Louisiana Tech. They've been a little underperforming. They've been a little underwhelming this year, to say the least. I gotta go Maryland. Moving on, we got Missouri Drake. Oh man, am I telling you, Drake is gonna be one of those teams that might just go on a crazy run. Bennett Sturts, he's gonna be a name to know. I could see him having a couple of those games and being a March Madness legend. Missouri doesn't do anything for me. I know they're an SEC team. I know the SEC is the best conference this year. You don't gotta tell me, but I feel like it's almost overinflated, some of these seed lines. Like Missouri at a 6 is just like, it's telling to how much really talent there is here, yet also to how even the playing field is this year, because some of these teams, man, the seeding is all over the place, and it's just not what I expected. But I got to go Drake. I didn't really talk about the matchup, but it's just 11s always end up beating, like there's always a lot of 11 over 6s upsets. This year, I got to have Drake as at least one of them. Then we got Texas Tech, UNC Wilmington. As much as Texas Tech is a little wishy-washy for me, I got to pick them over UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington, I didn't think was going to make it here. I thought they were going to be they were behind 3 other teams in the CAA for me. This Texas Tech team has been heating up a little bit as recently. They've been okay. They had their loss to U of A in the Big 12 conference tournament, but then they've had their ups and downs this season. But I got them beating UNC Wilmington. Then we got Kansas, Arkansas. Who would have thought Bill Self versus John Calipari first round, and it's a 7 versus a 10. Kansas was definitely underwhelming this year. Both of these teams, just the battle of who was most underwhelming. There is no winner to this game. There is no loser to this game. They're both losers here. But unless one of them miraculously just picks it up and wins, then we'll be talking about this. But for now, I got to go Kansas. As much as, yes, Arkansas has these younger guys, Kansas has been here before. I know Hunter Dickinson has been awful, but he's been here before. Zeke Mayo was on the South Dakota State team, I think, that was supposed to beat that Providence team. And then just the whole surrounding cast, they've been wishy-washy. They picked it up a little bit recently, and then they've just fallen right back down in that hole. But both of these teams coming in cold. It's going to be really hard to pick a winner, to be honest. And then moving on, St. John's, Omaha. I got to go St. John's. Got to go with Rick Pitino's squad. Having those 3 guards, I just love the guard play. I love guard play with college, and I just love this guard play on this team. You don't even mention any of them here, and that's just what is even better about this team, because they have those guards, and then they also have just dominant scorers like RJ Lewis, and then interior presence of Ejiofor. It's just gonna be different. This Rick Pitino squad, I has potential to make a deep run this season. I'm telling you. Then moving on to the next game, we got Duke versus American or Mount St. Mary's. Picking Duke. I know Cooper Flagg might be out for this game, but it doesn't mean they're gonna lose in the first round. Like they've been right up there with Auburn as the best teams this season, and it's a 16 just isn't gonna be the one this season. I if it happens, the world isn't real anymore. This shit's really going bad. Then we got Mississippi State, Baylor. Probably got to pick Baylor here. It's again, I'm telling you, they get these new teams that are in here after not really being in here, being kind of after for a couple seasons, they're finally get a run and they make it in, and then Baylor is just on a little bit of a slumpy season, but I still got to pick them over Mississippi State. I just don't like these Mississippi State teams. They never really do anything for me. It's just the program always has. There's just something about it that just I always steer away from them in March, and I don't know why, but it always ends up being the correct thing to do. So I'm gonna keep going with it. We got Oregon Liberty, Liberty being probably one of the weakest 12 seeds in this tournament, and usually those are the ones that end up upsetting the 5. But we'll see about that this year. To be honest, this Liberty team isn't anything to die for, and this Oregon team isn't anything to die for either. This Oregon team is not what they were at the beginning of the season, that's for sure. They had a rough February, I'll tell you. Really fell, but I still got to pick them. Then we got Arizona Akron. Akron was another one of those teams that I was talking about. Could potentially make a run. Arizona, is always wishy-washy. They had such an up and down season this year, being so bad to start and then so good as of recent. Feel like I gotta go with them. Gotta go with them over Akron. Moving on to BYU, VCU. BYU, I just do not like this team for whatever reason. Igor Demin, yes, I know you're an NBA player. We'll see how that works out in the NBA. VCU has Max Shulga, has Joe Bamisile. Sorry if I butchered that name. But they got the good coaching. I believe their coach is Ryan Odom. He was the coach of UMBC when they beat Virginia in 2018. And then he was was he at Utah State last year? Yeah, he's at Utah State, I think, last year or a couple years ago. Max Shulga is a great sharpshooter. They got really good players on this team, and they're one of the teams that people have been picking as an upset, and I feel like I got to go with it. There's not enough of these like really strong mid majors, so you got to go with the ones at the top, like the VCUs, like the Drakes. I know it's not as fun as picking a 12 or 13 or 14, but like to really pick like the best overall brackets, you got to pick the teams that make the most sense, And then we got Wisconsin, Montana, another team I was talking about in the video. Monty Williams, obviously still love the guy. He's a great player. But against his Wisconsin team, they just won the Big Ten tournament, and coming in at a 3 line, I think might be a little high for them. Like, I don't really respect them at that 3 line. But you can't really go against them, I believe, against Montana, at least. Like, this would be this is a round that Montana can win. This is a matchup that Montana can win. They got lucky. They weren't a 15 seed. They were a 14 seed. So they got a worse team. If they were matched up against any of these 2 seeds, it's a 2 seed. It's St. John's. It's Tennessee. It's Alabama. It's Michigan State. Wisconsin, it could be Wisconsin. Montana could beat them. This, if you want to pick an upset, this is my favorite upset to pick at that 14-3 line. It would definitely be Montana or Wisconsin. And you know what? I'll keep it, because honestly, I don't see Wisconsin going far. So, you know what? We'll take the upset. I've been saying it. I'll ride with it. Montana over Wisconsin. Book it, ship it, bet on it, do whatever you want. I don't care. Just go ahead. Follow me if you want. St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt next, 7-10. Vanderbilt, SEC, yes. Strongest conference, yes. Jason Edwards, yes, he's good. St. Mary's has the foreign guys, has the white boys. They are always here. They always, the story with them. Pretty good this year. A little underseeded, not underseeded, but a little lower than they would like to be. And it's always hard to adjust to their pace as another team. That's why I feel like I gotta go with them against this Vanderbilt team, because this Vanderbilt team doesn't really move me, just like that Missouri team, just like a lot of these SEC teams. Yes, I know they're talented, but at the end of the day, that some of these matchups, I just gotta go with the other conferences. It's just like, yes, 12 teams made it, but half of those teams have to lose in the first round, I feel, you know. And just like that, we're talking about another SEC team. Alabama's beating Robert Morris. Robert Morris is definitely, they have Cam Woods. I remember he was, I think, at NC State last year. That's cool that he's on another team and he's doing his thing, but it's Bama, and Bama's Bama. They got Mark Sears. They made it to the Final Four last year. They have that exact same team. So it's going to be hard to really pick against them, but I don't really favor them that much, if you know what I mean. They're not gonna, like, they're not my favorite team in this bracket, but they could definitely make it to the Sweet 16. It's not out of the picture. Then finally, last section of the first round, the Midwest region, we got Houston versus SIUE Edwardsville. Gotta go Houston. Gonzaga versus Georgia. Gotta go Gonzaga. You know, as much as this is a really rough season for them, I gotta go Gonzaga. They did just win the conference championship tournament. They're heating up. They're getting, it's Mark Few. He knows how March is. He can figure it out with this team. They still have the guys. Georgia has an NBA talent. I know it. Asa Newell is gonna be in NBA next season, but just give me Gonzaga. Just give me Gonzaga. And then moving on, got Clemson, McNeese. McNeese, I know I talked about them in my bracket, or in my video last, is my last video, and for those reasons, I'm around with them. I believe in them. Javon Garcia, Sincere Parker, they still got Shoemate. I know Clemson, yeah, Chef and Chase Hunter, but you know, this ACC is not looking too good. You know, it's pretty much just Duke, and I only really respect Duke out of that conference for this season. It was a really down year for the ACC, I gotta tell you. Then Purdue High Point. People like High Point at this matchup. Me, I'm not one of those people, because Purdue still has, you know, Braden Smith. They still have the guard play. Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, and Trey Kaufman-Renn filling in for Zach Edey pretty well, averaging 20 points per game. Doesn't move me away from him, you know, it moves me towards him. So I gotta go Purdue here. I believe I picked all the fours to move on. You know, it is good to sneak a 13 in. If I was to sneak a 13 in, it would be Akron or Grand Canyon right now, from what it looks like. But their matchups are also just super tough, you know, facing Maryland and Arizona. Then we got Illinois versus Texas and Xavier. Ooh. Illinois, you know, they got Jacusionis, they have Will Riley, they have the good players, they got Kylan Boswell, Trey White. They have good transfers. They have Brad Underwood as their coach still. They've been to March before. Texas, on the other hand, is hot, coming off of that double overtime win over Texas A&M in the SEC tournament. And they have some talented guys, but it's just the coaching for them. It's really just the coaching. They haven't had a good coach in a while. Since, I think, probably Chris Beard. I mean, that was the last coach. I think almost, yeah, I don't even remember the last good. I think it was probably Rick Barnes, honestly. Illinois, I gotta go with one of the first four teams. I gotta go Texas, though. Xavier's not moving me. They're not winning this game. If they do beat Texas, then pick Illinois every day, every the week. We'll see after that first four is done. Then we'll take Illinois, but from then on, if Texas wins that game, I got them beating Illinois and moving on to the second round. And then we got Kentucky, Troy. You know, the mid majors this year just don't move me. I don't know what it is, but some of them are just not gonna be respected. I gotta go to Kentucky. Then UCLA, Utah State. I know the Mountain West always is kind of wishy-washy when it comes to March, and UCLA, this is one of their worst teams as of recent. I feel like really nothing standing out for them. And Utah State might They might catch him. I gotta go Utah State. This might be the Mountain West Conference's year. They might actually win for once. Then we got Tennessee Wofford. Tennessee. Yeah, gotta go Tennessee. Finally done with the first round. Let's get the ball rolling. Go to Auburn Creighton. Gotta go Auburn. We'll make this quicker for you. You got kind of the breakdowns of the team. Let's just roll through these. Auburn Creighton. Yes, Auburn. We'll go Michigan, Texas A&M. The guard play of Texas A&M really moves me, but the big man in Michigan also moved me, and I got to go Michigan for that reason. And then we got to go Iowa State and Michigan State, New Mexico. I know as much as I was praising Izzo, I also do like Donovan Denton. I was telling you this team can make a run. I gotta go with New Mexico over Michigan State. Moving down to the West, we got Florida versus UConn. Gonna take Florida. They're one of my favorite one seeds for sure this year. Colorado State, Maryland. As much as I would like to see Colorado State make it, I gotta go Maryland. They're just too powerful. Drake, Texas Tech. This is one of those games, man. I think we might have a Cinderella. It's a small Cinderella, but it's a Cinderella. Gotta go with Drake over Texas Tech. And yeah, Bennett Sturts. I just think this Drake team, the coaching is nice, and they just play a certain way. They've been successful. They've been here before. It's a different team. And JT Toppin, I know, yeah. I just got to go with Drake. I'm feeling it. I like this upset pick. They're one of those teams. And then Kansas, St. John's for sure. Then up to the East region, Duke, Baylor. I got to go Duke. There's always one of those one seeds that gets out early, and Cooper Flag being out makes me feel like Duke might go early. Not this early though. And then Oregon, Arizona, Pac-12 rematch, but I got Arizona. Oregon, just they've kind of fallen off too hard for me to really like them at this point. I gotta go U of A. U of A still also hasn't really done too much to impress me that much, but still better than Oregon. Then we got VCU, Montana. I'm gonna go with VCU. They got the guys. They could be a Cinderella for sure. St. Mary's, Alabama. Gotta go with Alabama. That fast pace is gonna screw St. Mary's up, or that slow pace could screw Alabama up. We'll really have to see who runs the game. It all kind of comes down to the coaching. Moving down to the Midwest, Houston, Gonzaga. I don't think I see a one seed losing the second round this season. I'm gonna go Houston, Gonzaga. Just like, yes, these teams right here, Creighton, Baylor, UConn, Gonzaga, they're all teams that are like any other year. You're like at an 8 seed, at a 9 seed, I'm picking them, yeah. But it's just this season is just different. It's just not their year. McNeese, Purdue, as much as I like McNeese as an upset team, they are only going to get one upset. Purdue's moving on. I think it didn't have all the fours move on. Yeah, that's fine. Houston, Purdue, we'll get to that later. Texas or Kentucky. Yikes, this side of the bracket is definitely one of the not interesting sides. It's almost one of the more chalk sides. I'm gonna go with Kentucky. I like that team against Texas. I think they beat them in both their matchups. Let me see if it has it on their notable results. Nope. Okay. Then Utah State, Tennessee. Is it the Mountain West's year? I picked New Mexico. I don't think I can pick Utah State, though. We got to go with Rick Barnes, Tennessee. Then moving back up, we got Auburn, Michigan. Gonna go Auburn. Iowa State, New Mexico. Let's go. Oof. Do we carry Donovan at this far? I like Iowa State has kind of not been too hot recently, and if they make it this far, they make it that far. I'm gonna pick them over New Mexico. New Mexico had a good run. Then we got Florida, Maryland. I'm going Florida. Now I know I was hyping up Maryland, but I'm hyping up Florida even more. Their guard play is something to talk about with Will Richard, Walter Clayton. Who I just watched them today. Who is their other guard? It'll show me. Yes, Elijah Martin. Oh my God, out of FAU. He's been here before. And then Drake St. John's. I'm gonna go St. John's. If we get this matchup, that would be just cinema, honestly. Moving over. Ooh. Yikes. I'm gonna go Duke. I'm gonna go Duke. It's tough. Arizona or Duke. It really depends if they think that Cooper Flag is gonna be. Yeah, there's no really report out yet if he's gonna be back, but I feel like he should be back by the Sweet 16. That's in a week. That's in 2 weeks. So he'll be back by then. Hopefully. VCU Alabama. Does VCU have a little Cinderella run here? I like this team, man. I really do. I think I got them moving on to Elite Eight. Throw an 11 seed in there. Why not? Houston, Purdue. Does Purdue make it this far? Do we believe in Purdue that much? Because Houston, this team, like, as much as, yes, they're a dominant team, this team does not move me as much as the past couple seasons. That, like, LJ Cryer, yes, he's been here before. He was with Baylor when they were really good. He's been with Houston for a while. They got Milo Suzan. They got Sharp. Sharp's been showing out recently. Joanne Roberts still there, also leading the front court. Definitely gonna help him out, but one of these ones he has to lose in the Sweet 16, and if it's gonna be any of them, it's probably gonna be Houston. Honestly, a lot of people are gonna be undermining Florida, and they do have a really tough path. UConn, Maryland, and then St. John's potentially in that Elite Eight matchup. But we'll see. I got Purdue. As much as, like, I don't completely love this Purdue team, and they weren't my favorite out of the Big Ten, but with some of these matchups, I just like the way that their team. I just feel like Matt Painter can make another good run back to at least the Elite Eight again. And then Kentucky, Tennessee. Who do we like here? Do we go with Rick Barnes and having such a good defense, or do we go with Mark Pope and just how this Kentucky team has been kind of running through people? Because, does good offense beat great defense, or does great defense really just hold them down? In their matchups, Kentucky's won both times. That gives me leaning to Kentucky. Now let's get into this finally Elite Eight. Auburn, Iowa State. Gonna go Auburn here. They're just the best team in the nation. Florida, St. John's. Ooh. Guards versus guards, but whose guards are better? Honestly, whose coaching is better? And I like St. John's. I'm gonna go St. John's. Then Duke, VCU. Do we have VCU just beating the superpower of Duke? It's just a real Cinderella run. They've had one before, as a program. You know what? We'll throw VCU in our Final Four. That'll be our Cinderella team. And then Kentucky, Purdue. We'll take Purdue. Purdue's making it back to the Final Four. Then we got Auburn, St. John's, VCU, Purdue. We'll take St. John's. We'll take Purdue. Oh, do I like this though? Do I feel that confident in Purdue? I think, okay, Kentucky. We'll take Kentucky. And we'll take St. John's to be the one to bring down the banner. This year is definitely the most interesting year so far. Yeah, I gotta say, this year's definitely gonna be unpredictable with the amount of just up and down seasons that a lot of these teams have had. I can't even name how many of them. Creighton, oh my God, Ole Miss, UNC, Iowa State, Marquette, there's just so many teams that are just they're unpredictable. March Madness is unpredictable. If anyone ever thinks they're gonna get a perfect bracket, you're delusional. But yet here I am, and here's everybody watching this, and here's everybody filling out millions and millions of brackets, hoping to get that perfect bracket. And we'll just have to wait and see if St. John's is the one. That is all for me today. I will be covering March Madness viciously through these next couple weeks, and hopefully you guys keep tuning in. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one. What is up, everybody? It is time. March Madness is finally here.